Hello there. This is the Entertainment Audience, and today we are reviewing Dumb and Dumber.
From 1994, everybody.
Let's get to the basics. IMDb gives us a 7.3 out of 10.
And Rotten Tomatoes gives this a 66%.
I kinda wonder why.
And the Metacritic gave it a 41%.
He asks this attractive woman of how to get to the medical school because he's lying about a lecture that he's going to give. And he already starts acting like an idiot.
Well, what do you expect?
And this is where we get our intro to the movie, which is the song Boom Shakalak.
Which is revealed that he is actually the limo driver. Makes you wonder if he was going to be sophisticated or not.
And then the logo, Dumb and Dumber.
And if you are wondering what he looks like in the movie, he looks like Drago from Bakugan.
No,
the
he
light
doesn't.
version.
Dude, what the hell was that?
How about... oh, I know. It's simple. It was basically me doing the voice of a character who you may recognize from another channel recently. Subscribe to Lego Animations.
Master. And then after the limousine passes by, we get our first appearance of Harry, who is played by Jeff Daniels in the movie.
Where he is seen giving food to dogs, basically. Oh, what a nice guy.
And because of his terrible driving, he causes the dogs to swiver everywhere and around the car.
Her name is Mary, and this is the house where Lloyd arrives to
pick her up. She goes back into the house to get ready, and Lloyd has a sort of love at first sight feeling. So on the car ride to the airport, he starts asking her some strange questions, just more awkward or whatever. And because he's a bad driver, he ends up not looking where he's going because he causes a truck to crash. Then we cut back to Harry, who's presenting some dogs to an old woman, but apparently she does not expect this because the dogs are covered in mustard and ketchup because of him.
Lloyd, well, you know, he drops her off basically at the airport, and they say their goodbyes for now. Of course!
He tells Mary that she does not have to pay him because she's too nice. Lloyd finds a suitcase that he believes belongs to Mary because she left it there, so he takes the opportunity to run into the jetway, only to find out that the airplane is gone because he fell out. So Lloyd takes a taxi back, who meets up with Larry, who is his best friend in this movie. So they start heading down to their apartment when they actually end up being followed by the two goons who want the suitcase. When they come home, Lloyd starts to tell him that he found the most beautiful woman alive.
And, well, he misses Mary.
And because the goons arrive at their apartment, Lloyd thinks that Harry did not pay the gas bill or something. Or maybe the rent. Who knows what the hell they did. And before they leave to their big Colorado trip, they decide to go buy some stuff. Lloyd ends up walking back with a bunch of stuff, including some beer and a big hat. Apparently, he gets robbed by an elderly woman. So their journey to Colorado begins, as Harry starts asking how he got all that money to buy all that stuff, in which Lloyd responds and saying that he sold some of that stuff, which were actually some of Harry's property, and told him that he sold his dead bird to a blind kid, which gets him pissed. So they head to a restaurant for lunch, in which the two act like full-fledged buffoons because they are messing with the waitress, and apparently just doing stupid stuff because they think it's funny as the waitress brings them their food.
Until Harry spilled some salt, in which Lloyd basically says, it is bad luck.
But he throws it over his shoulder.
In which it basically, well, it hits Seabass over here.
And Lloyd, being the great friend that he is, blames Harry. Seabass ends up tormenting Harry, which makes him want to give him his food. But after Seabass spits on it, Harry allows him to take the food because, well, you know, he spit on it. But Lloyd here has a perfect idea to get him back. Lloyd's plan starts a little bit like this. He decides to buy them some drinks and claim that it's on him. So they agree and they storm off, knowing what's going to happen.
Lloyd then tells the waitress that Seabass basically, well, you know, he wants to pay for the bill. Really? Seabass said that?
But But unfortunately, it turns out to be a prank because they left the store scot-free.
Well, of course they do. They wanted to not pay for it to save some money after all.
But unfortunately for Lloyd,
He has to pee.
and Harry cannot stop because they are driving on an open road.
Yeah!
Harry tells Lloyd to pee in a beer bottle because they cannot stop for a bathroom break because, there's no public restrooms. So Lloyd is starting to have a little pleasurable feeling of pissing in a bottle.
Well, at least not as bad as the splinter.
But unfortunately for them, a police officer starts chasing them because he mistakes them for drinking when those bottles are actually full of urine.
Yes, they're drinking the beer piss.
When they get stopped, he's asked for his driver's license.
License and registration, please.
He takes the beer from them, and they warn him not to drink it because it's full of urine. But he does not believe them, so he starts to take a sip out of it, in which he starts twitching. Wow. The following night, Lloyd is driving the car as Harry's asleep, and because of that, he decides to go into a little fantasy, and, in his fantasy, he heads to Mary's house as he actually has her suitcase, which makes her happy because she hugs him for a long time, because this is literally what he's thinking.
So, cut to the restaurant scene where the employees are giving him trouble. I don't even know why.
Because they're tormented him by taking his woman, so he decides to beat them all up because that's just what his fantasy is all about.
Well, he has to be an expert considering it's his fantasy after all.
And for some reason, this causes the chef to go out.
And then, I don't know what to say for this scene.
All it was just a bunch of useless noises, okay? That's all I gotta say.
What a twist!
And then the rest of his fantasy just gets weird. Until his fantasy is actually over and he almost gets hit by a truck. So Lloyd and Harry are in the hot tub and they're talking about some girl.
And then a guy from Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide decides to show up.
As he's telling the guy to get the hell off the phone because he's using it for too long. But unfortunately things get unlucky when he gets punched in the face through the glass. Ouch, man. When they come across a hitchhiker who wants to, hitch a ride.
Yeah, and he at first says, we don't take hitchhikers.
But apparently they agree and they let him give him a ride.
But the ride turns out to be partly a bad idea because, well, they start annoying the crap out of the guy.
And this is where we get the most annoying sound in the world joke, which is pretty annoying because this was also made into a remix. But the ride ends up getting worse because they start to sing for a long time, which gets him really pissed now.
Yeah, to the point where he even thinks about killing them.
Because he ends up trying to pull out a gun. So they head to eat again in this place called Dante's Inferno.
I assume that this is the lunch and the last meal was breakfast.
And because they're acting annoying, he gets even more pissed. Because they don't have any water, Harry hands Lloyd some mustard and ketchup because, yes, that's going to definitely help. Outside, he's making a phone call to his boss and tells him that he's going to kill them with rat poison, as the two are actually putting some hot peppers in his hamburger because they think it's funny.
What? How the heck is that funny? I mean, that's cruel. He soon discovers the truth about the briefcase keeping short of returning it, and then he says talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then he eats the sandwich, and then he notices something's wrong with it. And as a result of that, he begins to choke on it. And they're finding this pretty funny. I don't know why. And then he collapses on the floor.
And because they're not fully trained to do CPR, they do it all wrong.
Yeah, even I know that much. And, well, they try getting his medicine.
But when he looks up and finds out that is not his pills, it's actually the rat poison that he tried to use.
What a twist! They find out he's dead, so they get the heck out of there! And so their journey to Colorado continues, and they're 602 miles away from Denver, so they're getting there. And Lloyd is asleep, so Harry is driving, and Lloyd is sleeping on him. Not in the way you would think.
But unfortunately, their journey to Colorado is stopped because the two of them have to stop for gas. So while he's getting gas, Harry starts flirting with a girl, and because he's very stupid, he starts asking her ridiculous questions that nobody can relate to. But he spills the oil on his jeans.
Meanwhile, Lloyd is in the bathroom and continues to piss.
until he notices that on the wall, which consists of the time 2:15 a.m. Apparently, he looks at his watch to find out that it's exactly 2:15 a.m. Unfortunately, Seabass shows up because he's the one who wrote that message on the wall, proving to everybody that he's gay. So he asks her for her phone number, but she doesn't have a pen or paper, so she has to say it out loud until he notices that his pants are actually on fire.
And Harry bursts into flames, both literally and figuratively.
And then she leaves because she claims that he's being a little too pushy, but it's okay, she's not going to leave right away. After Lloyd buys some drinks, he decides to drive because, Harry fell asleep. They almost approach a sign, and because Harry's fallen asleep, he's not going to see what Lloyd does because Lloyd ends up going the wrong way. Unfortunately, Harry notices this is not the Rocky Mountains. Now Harry is pissed that Lloyd went the wrong way the entire time. And Lloyd tries to tell Harry that it's not so bad because, he made a tad bad turn. Now, because Lloyd said this, Harry gets even more pissed off and flat out yells at him, exclaiming to him that they have no more money left to do anything, and Lloyd still doesn't realize this. Lloyd ends up coming back on a motor vehicle as Harry was just about to leave because he completely quit this adventure, and tells Harry to get the hell on because they could still return the suitcase back to Mary because they still can. Harry ends up agreeing with him and ends up sitting behind Lloyd in this whole adventure. So they've been driving for a long time until they actually reached the Rocky Mountains. Not literally, but they did actually arrive in Aspen on a motor scooter of some sort. So they walk down the streets attempting to go find Mary so that they can return the suitcase to her.
So they go through the phone book.
As Lloyd tries to interpret what Mary's last name is, but can't remember, so he starts blabbing out a few names, which Harry is still looking through the book, trying to find it.
Harry gets pissed and chases after Lloyd because it turns out he had an extra pair of gloves this entire time,
which he didn't bother giving to him.
They soon discover that the suitcase is actually full of money,
which they take.
Because the suitcase, the suitcase is full of money.
With the money that they have now, they use it to buy a room in a hotel and a really nice looking car. Until they notice Mary's picture in the newspaper, so they recognize who she is, especially Lloyd. So Lloyd gets the best tuxedo that he's got with the money he paid for because Harry likes it a lot. And the two of them arrive at a party that they were supposedly invited to. But when they do arrive, they start acting like idiots because Lloyd literally smacks his hat off and then Harry hits him in the ass. During the party, Harry urges Lloyd to go over and talk to Mary because they notice her in the distance, and because they have her suitcase. But instead, it turns out to be Harry who's actually talking to Mary instead, and the two of them end up setting up a date. Later on, the date ends up being, kind of awkward, still cute. Anyway, Harry decides to lick the pole, and because he did, his tongue gets stuck on it because, science. Anyway, Mary ends up trying to pull him out, and you guys can clearly see that that is not a real tongue because his actual tongue is right under the rubbery one. I read this on IMDb, guys. Lloyd ends up pouring Harry some tea while he's gone. But it turns out to the worst when Lloyd pours some laxative in Harry's tea. So a toast begins.
Where he is drinking it all. Gobbly, 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 gobbly.
So he drives to Mary's house, but along the way, he's actually having some stomach pains as it grumbles. When he arrives at Mary's house, things go to the worst when he has the sudden urge to take a shit. And yes, it's because Lloyd put laxative in his tea, and now he's attempting to find a bathroom. And then we cut to the most infamous and probably one of the most funny scenes in the whole movie where Harry has explosive diarrhea. I mean, this diarrhea goes on for at least 30 seconds or less. This is like, it's just, I don't even know what to tell you about this. Mary tells Harry on the other side of the door that he cannot use the bathroom because the toilet is broken, which makes him freak the hell out. Well, not really. Anyway, Lloyd comes in riding his motor scooter as he drops by Mary's house. At first, she doesn't recognize him, but then when she does, they go off out.
But apparently there's no money. Only leaves.
But when he comes in, he sees that they have been held captive, and he gets involved with this too. Apparently, Harry gets shot multiple times by him, and that gets Lloyd emotional because he just killed his best friend.
He killed his best friend. That's just... But apparently there's no money. Only leaves. And then he has a weird fantasy of
Killing her husband with a gun by shooting him repeatedly.
Huh. So that's what her husband was.
But when he actually meets the actual husband in reality, he gives him a weird look. Anyway, the next day, a bus full of girls comes out and they ask Harry and Lloyd to join them on their National World Bikini Tour. They end up giving them up, telling them that they can find guys that way. But apparently, Lloyd realizes what he did was stupid. Apparently, Lloyd tells them that you can find guys the opposite way, which kind of makes him a little more dumber than Harry. Huh. And thus ending the movie.
Okay, that was something.
Yes, this did have a plot, and we will talk more about this in the overview. Good night. So, ladies and gentlemen, a brief overview from the Entertainment Idiots.
Well, I get this a 6.8. Mainly for one, unlike grown-ups. It has an actual plot. Yeah, that's all grown-ups need to be a good movie. But in this case, it's more of a like it or hate it movie. In this case, if you like it, go check it out. If not, then don't see it. In my case, it was just an experience. How about you?
I have to agree with IMDb or something.
Really? Why?
Because I really like this movie a lot.
Then that means you would give it a perfect score.
I don't care.
Okay, then, how about for an extra, you want a comedy or an action thing?
Well, we'll show the viewers for a surprise. Good night, and everybody, we'll see you in the next review. This is the Entertainment Idiots. Subscribe, comment,
and follow us on Instagram. Mine's Michael Segal, and his is Alex Privman. And basically, follow me on Facebook, though more just friend me, because I don't really know.
And just share our channel with all of your friends.
Yeah, and look at our other YouTube channels.
Alright, yeah, the links will be in the description. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, that's all, folks.